October keeps on rolling, and same with the Extra Point. So much to talk about: college football, NFL, the World Series starts, and NBA tips off this week. Should be a fun week. We have a lot to talk about, and it all starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. As always, I'm your host, Griffin Barfield. Once again with me, we have a full panel. I have 5 panelists ready to talk their sporting views from the left to the right. We have Jordan York, Mara Kane, Brian Warner, Toby Coriston, and making his debut on the show, Kane Fox. Guys, to my 4 coming back, welcome back to Kane. Excited to have you on the show and see what you have to bring to the table. So why not get started? With a new segment, we have a new segment called Rank 'em, where I will give you a certain topic, and I will allow you to rank them for top 3, top 4, whatever it may be. And it will start at the bottom right now with the top 3 teams in the SEC. So much has kind of gone on over this last week. Georgia defeated Texas in Austin. Tennessee beat Bama, so now there's a whole thing going on. And then you have undefeated teams like LSU and Texas A&M now at the top of the SEC. So that's where you guys come in. From 1 to 3, who are your top 3 teams in the SEC right now? Who wants to start?
Start at the end of the table.
All right. First things first, before I reveal my rankings, I would just like to say how happy I am that Texas lost on Saturday. My hatred for Texas is well known, and I was just so thrilled that they got exposed. Texas is not back. They're not going to be back anytime soon. Georgia still runs the SEC. So with that, my rankings are simple. Georgia, easy. Rest of the way, easy schedule. Most dominant team, made Texas look like a middle school team, especially in the first half. That's easy. Number 2, I say Texas stays second just because they don't play anybody the rest of the way. Their toughest game is Vanderbilt. And then, you could argue that the Texas A&M game is going to be tough, but Texas's talent severely outmatches A&M in that rivalry game. So I think Texas will stay second, and we'll see the Georgia-Texas rematch. And third, I say LSU just because of a schedule. They play A&M this week. They play Alabama in 3 weeks. And if they get through those 2 games, they play 3 no-namers the rest of the way. So LSU will be third just because of an easy schedule.
Oh my God. Okay. I have Georgia, Texas, and Bama. I feel like Georgia and Texas is pretty I think most of us have the same thing. Georgia obviously beat Texas, and everyone watched that game. That's what top 3 recruiting looks like, and there was a really physical game. So Texas, I have second. They did lose to Georgia, but I still have them above most of the other teams in the SEC, and I have Bama because I know the AP poll has them at 15th, and everyone's like, oh, they should be lower. They lost to Vanderbilt, whatever. But the AP poll doesn't take into account talent, and I think that Alabama has a really talented roster. They just don't have the coaching. You can't, their defensive coordinator, you can't go from Southern Alabama and use the same tactics in the SEC. It's just not going to work. So that's why I have Alabama at third. I think that they're better than Tennessee. I think they're better than LSU. I just don't think that they've been performing.
I couldn't agree more. Now, I was kind of in between. The top 2 are pretty easy for me. It's Georgia, Texas. We just saw the game. Yes, it was a blowout by Georgia. But I still think those are the 2 top dogs. They have shown it this season. I had LSU originally, and I had to think, and I had to reread the question. And the question states that it's the top 3 teams in the SEC. It's not who's going to finish top 3. It's not who has the best record. It's who is the top 3 teams. And when I interpreted it, it's who has the most talent, and for me, it's Alabama. Alabama has more talent than LSU, and that reason is why I changed from the Tigers to the Tide.
Yeah, so I have that same thing for a couple different reasons. There's a lot of parity in the SEC this year. These are not 3 runaway teams. I do not think that Georgia will be the last team standing in the SEC come playoff time, but currently with their wins, with the situation that we're in, they have to be put as the top team. Texas is number 2. Like you said, they don't play anybody. They're going to finish the season with 1 loss, most likely. and they have a lot of talent. Last week I did mention that their receiving core is dangerous. You saw it get taken away against Georgia a little bit. They have to worry about that because they don't have a true number one wideout. If they go up against a good secondary that has two really good lockdown corners and a good back half, they're in a lot of trouble because they're wide receivers. You don't have somebody that can reliably get open. That's why we moved to Alabama at number 3, because they do have somebody that will reliably get open, and that's Ryan Williams, and you have a guy in Jalen Milroe that will reliably get him the ball. So when it comes down to the stretch, you are going to see them win games. Now this defense needs to figure it out. You have Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of Bama. He came from the Pac-12. They don't play defense in the Pac-12. That doesn't exist. And they have a new defensive coordinator who comes from South Alabama. You know, there's some things that they have to work on there, but they're going to figure it out. Bama is going to be in the conversation at the end of the day, and now they don't even have to worry about the SEC championship. They are out of contention for the SEC championship, but a 2-loss Bama gets into the playoffs. That's where their eyes are looking towards, and once they get into the playoffs, they can make noise any season.
All right, so I've got a little different. I got Georgia at 1 because, let's be for real, the only way you beat Georgia is you go and play ridiculous offense in a shootout. You beat them last second. That's what Alabama did. I don't see many teams doing that again. And then I've got Tennessee at 2. You guys like Bama here. Bama's lost 2. I think that the best teams are about winning and having good wins. And I think, look, they had that fluky loss a couple weeks ago, but I think Iamaleava can bring them to something great. And if they're going to play these close games against Bama and against other SEC talent, and they're going to come out on top, that's all you really need out of Tennessee. And then number 3, I'll let you get there in a second. I got Texas. I mean, listen, you get embarrassed. You have a prove-it game this next week. I'll put you at 2 when you win against a good Vandy.
Didn't Tennessee lose or beat Florida by 6?
At home, in overtime.
Yeah, but didn't
And then
Georgia,
they lost, and then they put up 14 points against Arkansas.
Yeah, but didn't Georgia only beat Kentucky by like what, 1?
Yeah,
That's a different
you
story.
said last week that you tried to
That's a very different story in this. You are a good team has those games. Georgia is a national championship contender. Tennessee is playing with a rookie quarterback. Iamaleava is a great quarterback. He's just not there yet. He's not going to be able to go beat a Georgia. He's not going to be able to beat a Texas.
But wouldn't you be expecting the younger stud or the younger player to have those bad games more than someone that's been to the playoffs and been like this team that's been to the championship over and over?
No.
How would you not? You're saying
so
I'm saying that there's a younger player, there's a younger quarterback that doesn't have the experience as much in those big games, and you expect him to win those big games more than someone.
I don't.
That has
That's why
experience?
Tennessee is not a contender for the SEC whatsoever.
I'm going to take a completely different route and just say that Iamaleava is not the guy yet. He is a freshman. He had about 12 overthrows in that Alabama game on Saturday. He was 14 for 27 with 1 touchdown and 1 pick, threw for less than 200 yards. He did not win them that game. Their defense, which made Jalen Milroe look awful, and he missed Ryan Williams wide open quite a few times. But Jalen Milroe played horrible on Saturday. That is why Alabama lost the game, because they forced the turnovers. They made the stops defensively to win the game. Nico did not go and win them the game. If that were the case, it would have been 38-35, not 21-17.
Which I think actually helps Kane's case, because if the quarterback didn't even win you the game, you're talking about a team, not just the quarterback.
Because the quarterback is the most important position on the field.
But it's not the entire team.
Out of any sport, the quarterback matters the most. That is why Jalen Milroe beat Georgia and why Tennessee will not be able to go beat Georgia, because Iamaleava cannot go into Athens and win you a football game.
Now, I'm going to be very clear, because you said how his quarterbacks matter. I didn't put Alabama on my list. I think Tennessee is better than Alabama. They showed it on Saturday. However, I think LSU is better than Tennessee because Garrett Nussmeier is much more proven than Nico Iamaleava.
Tennessee's playing better than Alabama. Tennessee's not better than Alabama.
Tennessee's not even playing better than Alabama. Alabama is having what a lot of teams struggle with a new coach, is you have a lot of success up front, and you don't know how to keep grinding the rest of the way. Kalen DeBoer does not know how to motivate his team right now, and you've seen that in the last 2 weeks. Vandy and Tennessee.
South Carolina.
And South Carolina.
And they're going to bounce back. But they will bounce back because it's still Alabama football. And you know what? Georgia is in trouble because they can't deal with mobile quarterbacks. You saw it with Arch Manning. Arch Manning was able to change the game a little bit for Texas. He was never going to win them the game, but he was able to find explosive plays against an otherwise good Georgia defense, and that's what Jalen Milroe brings to the table.
I think that's what makes the SEC so interesting is that there's no top dog like we've seen the last 5, 6, even decade, if you will, if you want to argue that. There are 6 teams in the top that are all 6-1. There are 13 of the 16 teams that are all above 500. This is an open race to see who's going to make it to that championship game, and I'm excited to watch.
And you know what's crazy? None of us put Texas A&M, the leader of the SEC, on.
Yeah.
Because it was A&M play.
Because
A&M's 4-0
A&M has a
conference.
great record.
A&M's got a great resume.
Their Notre Dame win gets better and better. However, like we were talking about, it's talent
They
that
didn't
matters,
beat Notre
and they
Dame.
don't have quite as much talent as other teams.
And I think we kind of shake our heads at a lot of these losses, but I feel like a team learns more from a loss than they do from a win sometimes. So yeah, I look at those teams that have 0 losses, and Georgia, they came back from that Alabama win. I don't see that happening again. But I feel like the minute A&M loses, they're going to panic and be like, we're not winning anymore. And
I think that Saturday when we're talking Georgia, Texas, that was a battle of the class of the SEC versus the newcomer who thinks they can just run the SEC. We saw it with Ohio State, Oregon. That was kind of how the Big Ten is. Ohio State had been running the Big Ten up until Michigan the last couple years, but predominantly Ohio State had been running the Big Ten. Then Oregon comes in and is like, hey guys, we're here now. Go Ducks. But Saturday, we saw Texas thinking they're the new sheriff in town, and Kirby Smart took about 20 minutes to say, no, you're not yet. Your time is coming, but not yet.
It could come in 6 weeks.
We have no idea.
We'll see.
It very well can. It really can, and I think that the reason why the SEC is now aligned this way is to spark conversation like this. I mean, you can't really go wrong with any top 5. I mean, A&M, like you said, undefeated. LSU, like you said, undefeated. Those are the only 2 SEC teams that are undefeated. Georgia have arguably probably now the biggest win in college football, or Bama, probably one of those 2 teams. And then again, you have, I mean, Missouri, we're not going to talk about Missouri, but Tennessee as well, A&M. You get the gist of it. And obviously we're going to figure that out over in just a few weeks. I know 3 weeks from now we do have Georgia, Tennessee. So that's another game to keep in mind. But we'll keep this in mind by week. We'll move quickly to the NFL now, where there is an interesting division that's kind of been ruling this NFL season so far, and that's been the NFC North. Obviously, you had the big game yesterday between the Lions and the Vikings. Lions won last-second field goal. Vikings almost stole it to stay undefeated. Packers beat the Texans on a game-winning field goal. And then the Bears won in London and are now on a bye week. All these teams are 4-2 or better. So now, rank these teams 1 through 4, Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears. How is it going to finish at the end of this season?
I guess I'll start. I got Lions at 1. Let's be for real. They're unstoppable right now. They've got one of the best receiver cores, the best running back duo, the best offensive coordinator, and a really good offensive line to pair with a good defense. They're really hard to beat. Number 2, I've got the Packers. I think they're just so explosive with Love under center. They've got an amazing offense. I mean, Tucker Kraft has been one of the best tight ends in football, and he's not even the top receiving threat. And I just think they're dangerous. They've got a good defense. And then the Vikings, I don't know how to feel about them yet. I think Sam Darnold has kind of come down to earth in the last few weeks. We're not seeing those multi-touchdown performances that we were used to starting when everybody was calling for him to be the MVP. But I'm not really willing to call them out yet. I mean, that defense is just so good. And Brian Flores can make any other quarterback that they're facing have a really bad time. So I don't have them at 3, I have them at 2.5 because I feel like they could probably make the playoffs. And then Bears at 4 because somebody's got to come in last. And I think it's just going to be them.
Frauds. Just the Bears. The Bears are not even relevant in this division. They have beaten teams with a combined record of, I believe it is 6-20. That's terrible. That is terrible. I have a very good friend who is a Bears fan, and all he can talk about is how good the Bears are, what their record is. They're 4-2, and they haven't played anybody. They really should have lost week 1 to the Titans as well. Will Levis, bless his heart, is not a good quarterback. And the rest of this division, I actually have the Vikings winning it purely because of their schedule coming up. They play the same opponents out of division, but the Vikings already got through a lot of their tougher ones. They played the 49ers already. The toughest opponent the Vikings have left are the Falcons or the Seahawks, which we saw the other day. Not 2 great teams. Like, they could beat you, but hey, not a lot coming down the pipeline. If you're the Lions, you still have the 49ers on your schedule. And then the NFC North is always going to beat each other up. So those 2 are at the top. Packers come in 3rd. They sneak into the wild card. And the Bears might as well lose out, I hope.
All right, so I went pretty similar to Kane, actually. It was Lions, then Packers, then Vikings, then Bears. The little numbers on the side are just different division and conference records. Personally, I'm looking at this with the Lions. The Lions, to me, is the most talented team in the whole division. The Packers are starting to get hot again. Jordan Love has kind of come back. And the Vikings, I think they had their nice little fun run at the top. They had their fun run. They're going to be up there. They're going to be competing for the title. I just don't think that they're going to be able to hold that lead in front of the Packers and the Lions. They obviously just lost one. They're 1-1 in the division. The Packers do need to catch up. They don't have a win yet in the division, but the Lions are undefeated there. And for me, I look at the Lions, I look at their schedule, and the Vikings still play the Lions one more time. They play one more time in Week 18. And I believe they play the Packers twice still. And when I look at those games, I can easily see the Lions sweeping. I don't know if they will, but I can see them sweeping the Packers, and I can see them sweeping the Vikings. I think they're talented enough. They have, is it Knuckles and Sonic? Is that what they call them? Yeah. David Montgomery and
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles in the backfield. They have Jared Goff, who's playing amazing right now in the last 4 games. He's thrown, I believe, has more touchdowns than interceptions or incompletions. So the Lions are playing on fire. I think they're coming out on top. The Packers-Vikings is just going to be a dog race for 2. Who's going to sneak in there? And all 3 of them can make the playoffs.
I have Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears. The NFC North is like, they're all competing with each other. It's like their greatest enemy is themselves. And I think, like the Lions, obviously, they're leading. The Vikings, like Toby said, I think that they got all their hard games out of the way, and I don't think they really have anything to worry about. I think the Lions are going to beat the Packers. I think that after that, they should be 6-3, and so that, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in the Packers. But the Bears, I don't think I really need to explain that one.
Okay, so we all agree the Bears are 4. That makes sense. They haven't played anybody 6-20. I mean, come on. We knew they weren't going to win it. Although Caleb Williams has made them better than they are, the division's just way too talented. 3rd is the Packers. Too young. They're a win later, not a win now type team. They have a lot of youth on that roster. They are not built to win now. We saw them. They're super talented. They beat the heck out of the Cowboys in the playoffs last year. They are a talented team. They're not built to win yet. There is a difference. And 2-1 are very simple. And I was lazy and didn't erase. So the Vikings are 1 and the Lions are 2. And it's very simple. The Lions are the most talented roster-wise in that division. And the Vikings lost on a last-second field goal. 31-29. Jahmyr Gibbs had over 100 yards rushing. Amon-Ra had 100 receiving. And Jared Goff started the game, I believe it was 14 for 14. He's not going to do that again against them or every week. He's done it. He's had a miraculous start to this season, so much so you could put him in the dark horse for MVP conversation. He's 2nd in the league in completion percentage. He's 1st in QBR. I think he's got like 10 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, and the Lions are 5-1. He's a dark horse for MVP. However, he is not going to keep that up. The Vikings aren't going to let that happen when they meet again, and they don't meet again until the last week of the season. That game could decide the division, and because it went the Lions' way the first time, it's going to go the Vikings the second. I think the Lions go deeper in the playoffs than the Vikings do because the Lions have the playoff experience, but I think the Vikings win the division and the Lions get the last laugh.
It's crazy to think about that game could determine who gets the bye in the playoffs. If you told me 3 years ago that we were going to be talking Vikings-Lions for the bye in the NFC, I would say you're crazy. But the Lions, you mentioned how it could come down to the last game. Their last 5 games go like this: Packers, Bills, Bears, 49ers, Vikings. I don't want to see any of those teams, frankly, towards the end of the season. Everyone's competing for the playoffs except for maybe the Bears. But frankly, like coming down the stretch, that team is going to be beat up. They already lost Aiden Hutchinson. If they don't trade for an edge rusher, that defense is going to be beat up by the end of the season, and who knows what could happen in that last game.
I do think, though, that although their last 5 is a pretty tough stretch, it's going to be tough. You're going to be facing previous or playoff teams from last year and playoff hopefuls for this year. Their games leading up to that, they can stack enough wins to at least secure a playoff spot. Those last 5 games will determine the division. I do think that the Lions will be able to take over the Packers, and I think because it's in Detroit and it's going to be Week 18, there are going to be implications. Detroit fans are going to show up. I don't see a scenario where Minnesota fans take over 40% of the stadium, and all of a sudden the Lions sit there and lose.
Absolutely not. That game won't matter for the division. The Vikings will have already won it. They don't have losses left on their schedule. If Sam Darnold keeps playing the way he is, and I was a big believer in Sam Darnold at the start of this year, I was expecting this, and then you have the best wide receiver in football and a very, very good defensive coordinator that can scheme up anything against anybody. This team doesn't have any losses left on their schedule. They will still lose games, but you don't see any very clear losses.
Can you just do me a favor and compare the Vikings and Lions schedules? Because I think that closes the case very, very easily.
So for the rest of the way, the Vikings play the Rams, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Bears, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Bears, the Seahawks, the Packers, and the Lions.
I think the best game I heard was the Lions.
Yeah,
And then
there are
the second
two
is
losses
Falcons.
left. And then if you flip
The Lions,
over,
let's see, let me read it real quick.
it goes for the Lions. It is the Titans, the Packers, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Colts, the Bears, the Packers, the Bills, the Bears, the 49ers, and the Vikings.
Yeah, that's...
Which we've seen.
It's 2 losses versus 4 losses.
But I think
Yeah.
you're also looking at the Lions have one of the best tandems in the backfield, arguably the best tandem. And the Bills were eaten up by the Ravens and by any other run game. They've been eaten up by the run game.
yes, they will.
They're gonna
But they
be- that's
can
not gonna be a
stay-
tough
But
game.
the Bills can drop.
Where is
45
that
points
game?
on
It's in
anybody.
Detroit.
It's in Detroit?
It's in Detroit.
The Bills will drop.
When they
40.
play the Bills in Detroit, they play the Vikings in Detroit. They play 49ers at home. They play Texans in Houston. So, like, those 2 games will be away. But we even saw Minnesota take out Houston 34-7. So, like, there's Texans, no team is, like, obviously.
I feel like we could debate all week, all day, all year about whether it's going to be the Lions and the Vikings. They're 2 very evenly matched teams. It's just who's going to have the more beneficial schedule. I don't think, frankly, I think it's still too early to call.
Yeah.
I think we need to sit down in like 5 weeks when the Lions have that road still to go and the Vikings don't, and that may be the difference maker.
I think you guys are forgetting one very important thing when it comes to Minnesota and the Vikings. It's yearly heartbreak. And I feel like the Vikings will somehow mess it up horribly, and their fans will be very upset because they will have wasted away a 5-0 start.
I think that was more Kirko Chains than anything instead of the Vikings, but we shall see.
So now we have Sam Darnold.
I like Sam Darnold way. I'm not getting into this. Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Kirko.
Never
This is brief because we got a lot to talk about. But the Vikings, that yearly heartbreak comes in the playoffs, not usually the regular season.
The last thing I'm going to say is I've never seen Sam Darnold. Granted, he was on the Jets, but even in the
He's been
49ers.
on the Jets and Panthers.
Even with the 49ers when he took over when Brock Purdy got hurt, it was like, yeah, he was decent for a stretch. I haven't seen the longevity of it. I haven't seen throughout the season.
quarterback this year. He is an elite quarterback.
That is a strong statement.
I think there's a little bit of an overreaction here. We're a third into the season. We've only played 6 games. We still have 11 to go. So that is another thing to keep in mind because the wheels can fall off of any team. I mean, look at the Packers last year, right? They went on that nice little win streak, snuck into the wild card, and won a game against Dallas. They almost beat San Francisco. So that's kind of an interesting way to put it. I think you got to just sit back and watch this beautiful game of football kind of go across. So again, we'll follow this in week to week. Maybe I do this in 3-4 weeks to come and see what happens. So we'll keep an eye on this for sure. But we'll move right back to college football. College football pick'ems, obviously we have 3 games that we are going to kind of break down today. A little bit more of a weaker slate compared to your Texas Georgias of last week. And we have an ACC matchup. We have undefeated Pittsburgh, 19th in the country, looking to get into the ACC championship game to keep their hopes alive. They're hosting Syracuse, who, barring one poor call on defense, they could be undefeated too. So we have Syracuse, Kyle McCord, Eli Holstein in Pittsburgh in Acrisure Stadium. It's Thursday night too, so that will be interesting to follow. Who takes it?
If we spend more than 3 minutes talking about this game, we're wasting our time. Syracuse wins this easily. Pittsburgh's home field isn't that great. Yes, they play in an NFL stadium, so what? Big deal. They're 6-0. Their best team they've played is Cal, and they beat them by 2. Outside of that, they had to come back against Cincinnati and win by 1. Barely won the backyard brawl against West Virginia, which was at home. Couldn't beat North Carolina, I think, by 10. They're 105th against the pass, and Syracuse is second in the nation in passing offense. Q's by 20.
I'm seconding that all the way. Everything he just said. Pat Narduzzi is a great coach for Pittsburgh. That is why they are a top-ranked team with very little talent, but that's the problem. They don't have a lot of talent. They just play really good team ball. They don't have a very good secondary, and Kyle McCord is going to take full advantage of that.
I agree too. Give me the orange. I think that, Pittsburgh's undefeated. They're looking ahead maybe a week from now where they play SMU, which is a ranked team, so they might, look over Syracuse, but I think Syracuse is going to bring the business and they're going to win.
I'm gonna be honest. You can look at all the stats you want. I got a gut feeling it's gonna be Pittsburgh. I'm gonna be 100%. Yes, Syracuse has played, and I'm looking at their schedule. They played the 25th ranked UNLV. They played 23rd Georgia Tech. They beat both of them. Congratulations. You also lost to Stanford, so we can't go off of these chain games. You're going off of what's going on this week. Kyle McCord's been great. He's thrown for over 2,000 yards. Pittsburgh's QB, which I can never, Holstein, I believe.
Eli Holstein, yeah.
He's been good. They've been very similar in stats. I just feel like it's going to come down to home field advantage. I think it's going to be Pitt, and I just think that Pitt's going to continue to roll on. Because even you told us, like last week when we were behind the camera, you said that Pitt might be a danger game for Clemson to lose.
That's very different than Syracuse.
I'm just saying.
I have
and
very different reasons.
Yes, and one of your reasons was the home field because you're playing in Pitt. Pitt is different. I'm not saying that's your main reason, but I'm also trying to remember your argument. But either way, I still have Pitt. It's going to go basically off of gut feeling, not exactly stats. I just feel like Pitt's going to win this game.
I know you said by 20, but I think this game is going to be a lot closer than you think. I mean, they both have transfer quarterbacks. They both have new coaching. I have Pitt. I think. Are you laughing at me?
Yes.
Pitt has a strong defense. They're ranked 8th in EPA for rush. The only issue is that.
That is based off of who they've played, not based off of their
Well,
talent.
EPA is estimated points against, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The only issue was that. What was I gonna say? I don't even remember. I have Pitt.
Level
You're like,
1,000 right now.
Stadium pulls too
I mean,
high.
you're acting like Syracuse has actually played like levels ahead of talent. They haven't.
They've
If you
played-
look at all the teams they've faced,
It's
none
not-
of them are
it's
ranked
not
right now.
It's not levels above.
ahead.
Correct.
It's the
It is
same level
clear
of talent,
differences.
and I have seen
And
Kyle
every
McCord sling it. And they also have 3
Kyle
really
McCord is
pass
great.
catchers.
Kyle McCord is great. Every game they've played other than Ohio has been at least one score.
Name me one.
My bad. Sorry.
name-
Also Holy Cross.
Name me one other player than Pitt's quarterback.
I don't know him. I said I don't look at the stats. I had to look at the Holstein. I had to look at his name on the thing.
Okay.
I'm telling you from what I'm just looking at, Pittsburgh.
I think we're approaching the
in-home.
3-minute mark.
how do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. The only metric you need to look at is that Syracuse is second in the nation in passing
And
yards.
sometimes you don't look at
Pittsburgh's
stats. Look at
defense
Vandy and
is
Alabama.
105th.
How do
It's
you?
not always about stats. It's about where it's set up. It's about how it's going to happen. And sometimes you just got to go with your gut. And I'm going Pitt.
That's your gut.
I respect the gut.
Yes?
How do
Sorry,
you
Ed.
think? No, sorry. How do you think that Pitt is going to be like a toss-up for Clemson, but Syracuse is going to
Because
smoke
it's
Pitt?
Clemson's last game of the year, you have to travel to Pittsburgh, and all of the pressure is on you. Pitt will be a one-loss team at that point, but the way the ACC,
Syracuse.
Too. They play SMU next week. They're losing
they
that.
could, I think they'll win one of these 2 games. Crazy statement. Pitt could be a one-loss. Pitt could be a one-loss team going into that Clemson game with a shot at the ACC championship and nothing to lose.
I think
That's where the situation scares me for Clemson. And Clemson, nobody on this team have been in this situation. That's a whole nother.
I think it's wild to say that Clemson shouldn't win it. But that's a whole different.
That's a whole nother debate. We'll talk about that in 3 weeks.
Well, a whole new conversation there. We're going to move on really, really quickly. It is a fun ACC game. Let's go to 2 disappointing SEC teams. It's 21 Missouri and number 14 Alabama. Missouri almost lost against Auburn last week. Brady Cook was in the hospital, came back, won the game. I mean, Alabama was a totally different story. Offense looked dormant at Neyland Stadium. Took it their second loss in the SEC. They kind of need to win here at home. Who takes it? Toby already has his whiteboard, so let's see what he says.
Not a question. Missouri has absolutely no business being ranked. They have no business being in the SEC currently. They have no business being anywhere. They are a bad football team, even with Brady Cook. It will not make a difference. Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, this Bama team will get back on track right here.
Bama. That's all I got to say.
I'm going to go right on that bandwagon. I'm going to go Bama. Missouri, obviously they made the comeback. Brady Cook had gone to the hospital for an MRI on his ankle or whatever the case was. Came back, threw great, did great. You're not winning in Tuscaloosa. Bama right now is 4-0 at home this year. They've always been great. It's kind of like Clemson if you play at home. These teams know how to win at home when they're around their fans, and they know how to win in their environment. For that reason, I'm going to take Bama up 2 scores. I think that they're going to embarrass this Missouri team, especially considering they almost got shut out by Auburn. They were 17, or was it 17-3? It was either 17-0 or 17-3.
Missouri is just awful.
It's just not clicking right now. It was ever since the Texas A&M blowout.
I have Bama. I know there's like the whole debate. Like they lost to Vanderbilt. They almost lost to South Carolina, but I don't think South Carolina's as bad as I think they should be ranked if they're not
That's a
already.
stretch.
I
That's
think
a
they should.
stretch.
They're right up. They
And
they
Missouri
deserve
and
votes.
Missouri should be. Exactly.
But the way,
I think Missouri's overrated.
The way the rankings shake up, yes, this is the correct position for them currently. But as a team as a whole, they would not be ranked if you were looking at team talent.
Right.
But I think I give them more credit than
yeah,
they have.
Fair enough.
You're absolutely correct. They put up, 32 on Oklahoma? Almost like 32-3, I believe was the final score, or 32-14. So, I mean, you're perfectly right with saying South Carolina should be ranked, or close to it.
14 of those points.
They're
were
the
on
better
defense.
team. They should not be ranked.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. I'm going to disagree with all these people, and I'm going to say Mizzou. And it's very, very simple. I saw all I needed to see last week. Bama was broken when they lost to Vanderbilt, have not been able to recover. You escape against South Carolina, and then you go, on the road, yes, Neyland Stadium, tough environment. Okay, I get all that. But you miss a wide open top 10 receiver in college football about 6 different times. Your defense is still awful, even for a mid quarterback at the time. He did not play great. He's not a mid quarterback, but he had a mid game. And Mizzou was losing because they had their backup quarterback in. Brady Cook is sitting in the hospital, a senior, and is like, I've got 2 more games left. I'm getting back to the field because I'm not spending my games here. Goes back in the game in the 4th quarter, comes back from down 17-6 and wins the game. This is a fired up Brady Cook. I think this was something, a little bit of juice that Missouri needed because they hadn't really had a spark since they lost to A&M. I think with a spark, if we can see the offense from Missouri, if we can get Luther Burden more involved, I say we, I'm not a Mizzou fan, but if Mizzou gets Luther Burden more involved, if they can start to run the ball, because running the ball will make Alabama vulnerable to the explosive plays from Luther Burden. Will they be able to? I don't know. I think they'll be able to. I think there's juice in that offense. And Brady Cook is going to outplay Jalen Milroe.
But it's not like Brady Cook put up crazy numbers last week. They weren't.
He was in for a quarter.
Yeah, we're not last week.
That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
He was in for a quarter.
I'm saying even the small sample size is 11 for 22.
He was in for a
Against
quarter. Yeah, when you know that all they're going to do is pass the
I don't care
ball
if you're in
because
for a
they're
quarter or
down.
for a game. If you throw for
only-
50% completion percentage on 22
The
attempts,
on a
only
bum
argument
ankle.
against you is you had all ifs. There's no guarantees out of this Mizzou.
No, there's not.
Guarantees. There's not as many guarantees as out of Bama as we would have hoped. But Mizzou is all ifs, ands, and whats.
Right.
And Bama has some guaranteed things you know you're going to get.
The only thing that you can guarantee with Bama ever since they lost to Georgia is that you don't know if they're going to show up.
They will. I know. Because
in their hometown.
We
Look,
said
Bama
we
just lost
we are
at
looking
home.
at this. We are looking at this wrong. Vanderbilt didn't break Bama. Georgia broke Bama.
we were on my podcast last week and we said that Alabama was going to show up against Tennessee and Jalen Milroe was going to get back to form. Ryan Williams was going to be a difference maker, and Jalen Milroe was going to outplay Nico Iamaleava. And that did not happen.
Where did they play?
They played at Tennessee.
Where
yes.
do they play this week?
They play at Alabama. We'll see if that makes a difference. But the last time Alabama played at Alabama, they barely beat South Carolina. They gave the game away.
And yet they
basically.
didn't
And they beat. And they beat.
They
That's the
beat.
key
How
word.
many home games has Alabama lost?
None. How many home games has Missouri lost?
They're not at home. They're away. They're in Tuscaloosa.
Right. Okay.
They're in the heart of Alabama.
they-
There's nothing there
Okay.
for miles. It is just Alabama football.
Same thing with Clemson. We find a way to win at home. They find a way to win at home. We'll find out this weekend.
We'll see.
I mean, it would be a crazy upset for sure to see. I mean, because Alabama are a 14-point favorite. So, I mean, you would hit the jackpot here. So I'm wishing you the best of luck. I do
Hey.
think Alabama is going to win. We'll move on really, really quickly. This is the game of the week. In my opinion, I know College Game Day's not there. They're in Bloomington for the game. But it's the 2 last undefeated teams in the SEC. Number 8 LSU coming off another big win. They're coming to Kyle Field, take on the Texas A&M Aggies, who are also undefeated. Their loss keeps looking better because Notre Dame is now in the top 12, top 13. I mean, this is a great game. It's a toss-up for me, coin flip, but who do you guys have in this game?
My best friend is a freshman at Texas A&M. He will be at Kyle Field with 100,000 other people at this game Saturday night, prime time. But the last time Texas A&M was at home for a big game on prime time, they got beat. And A&M LSU, it's a rivalry game. You throw the record out the window. Yes, they're the 2 top teams in the SEC. how we got there clearly doesn't make any sense. Nobody can explain that. But go Tigers. I'm not buying into this A&M crap. Like, yes, A&M's got a good run game. LSU's got a better pass offense. A&M doesn't win big games at home. The only one they've had, they lost. So, well, actually, they had Missouri, but that wasn't really a big game. And we didn't know what we were going to see from Missouri. So, LSU wins this because they've got better quarterback play, better coaching. Brian Kelly's better than Mike Elko. And A&M just is going to once again lose a big game. They're just like Texas. Texas teams, when they're in big games, don't win.
I'll hop in here because I'm also going for LSU. I mean, both these teams undefeated in SEC play, but I mean, LSU's only loss was USC first game of the season in primetime. That's when they're gonna learn from. They have learned from. They've been winning, and I just think, listen, these Tigers are gonna win.
What was Texas A&M's only loss?
None of them.
Week 1, Notre Dame. Go Aggies. They are literally going to run away with this. Not score-wise, but literally run away with this. LSU's defense is bad. They give up nearly 6 yards per play. And you know what Texas A&M does with Le'Veon Moss on the ground? They average nearly 6 yards per carry. They're going to dominate the trenches in this game. They are going to hold on to the football. They are going to get the power, and that is a play on words. They are going to get the power of this stadium behind them, and they're going to go win this game. And you know what? Hey, all of a sudden you win this game, you got a shot at the SEC championship. These Aggies fans have never seen their team win an SEC championship. I don't believe they've ever even seen their team be in an SEC championship, and they have a crazy shot at doing that this year. This isn't their slip-up.
I am not buying into the Texas A&M hype for the SEC.
Why is it written on? Okay.
But I am going Texas A&M. I don't think it'll be this week that they actually drop it. I know, it sounds crazy. I think that they will drop an important game later down the road. I just don't think it'll be this one. I'm going Texas A&M. I think that home field advantage, that's all I always go to with an SEC school, unless it's typically Vandy, but that was a whole different thing. I'm going Texas A&M. I like him better. I don't trust Brian Kelly. I know he won last week in prime time. I just don't trust him when the lights are bright, especially when you're not at your own home.
I hate that you're arguing for my point right now.
So if you're
Why do you hate me?
Not you, just
no. Okay, so if you're gonna say that A&M isn't gonna slip up yet, but they'll slip up later, let me read you the rest of the schedule.
They've
They got LSU this week. Okay, yes, but
that's not a slip up. That's just a loss.
That's just a loss. That's not a slip up. They've got South Carolina, New Mexico State, and Auburn. Those are their 3 games.
No, they won't slip up against South Carolina. Auburn.
We didn't think Vandy would slip up against Bama. They're
at Auburn.
always a factor.
They are at South Carolina is at home. Keep in mind for that game.
I know
South Carolina's away.
People are going to be way too high on South Carolina going into that game, and it's going to flip
Over
back.
a 6-1
That's
Texas A&M?
People, yes,
Well,
because everyone's
A&M's
like,
gonna-
wait, South Carolina's not as bad as we think
Well,
they are.
guys,
They played all these teams close.
A&M's
You know what
gonna
they
be
haven't
6-2.
done? They haven't won any of those games.
A&M's going to be 6-2, not 6-1.
Well, whatever the case would be.
Last but not least.
I have A&M. I think that LSU has really good offensive tackles, but how do you say their quarterback?
Garrett Nussmeier.
Nussmeier, that's what I was trying to say. I can't pronounce anything, so. He doesn't do well under pressure, and I think if Nick Scorton can get through their offensive tackles, they're going to be shut down. They're not going to have any.
Fair enough.
I think all fair points. I think this game is truly a toss-up. I mean, as you saw, it was 3 versus 2. Should be a fun one, though. I'm very excited to see where the trajectories of these two teams go for the rest of the season. Going on to NFL Pick'em, we'll make this one fast. Again, like always, we only have 2 games. You're going to say the team that you like, why you like them, only 1 sentence. First game, 1 o'clock game, the 4-2 Eagles, big win against the Giants last week. They're traveling to Paul Brown Stadium to take on the Bengals, who have won 3 straight now. Who takes this one?
I got 2 words for you, and actually 2 words this time. Saquon Barkley.
I'll say the same thing, but in a sentence. Great running back versus terrible run defense. Go Birds.
I couldn't agree more. Eagles, Bengals are not good against the run right now, and Saquon is having, arguably, he's set up for a career year. I'm going with the Eagles.
We came off a great win against the Giants. I mean, Bengals will stand a chance.
Bengals, because they have more than 2 players that can win a football game.
Okay. I mean, fair point. Way to save the panel. I have the Eagles as well. Next game, I mean, this is a fun one. Seattle coming off of a win after 3 straight losses. They are hosting the 5-2 Buffalo Bills. I mean, Josh Allen has looked unstoppable, the MVP frontrunner, in my honest opinion. 5-2 Bills, 4-3 Seattle. Who takes it?
I guess I'm going Bills. They looked really good last week. They kind of started off a little slow, but they did finish with a 34-10 win. They looked great. I'm going Bills over Seahawks.
Somebody else, please.
I have Bills. They're an AFC powerhouse, and I think Josh Allen and Amari Cooper are kind of a dynamic duo. So
Bills win this easily because they have a true wide receiver 1.
I think this game all comes down to one factor, and that one's Josh Allen. When he plays really horribly, they don't win. When he plays even a little good, they do win. And, I mean, Seahawks had a great defensive showing against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, but they need to do it again against a much better team.
It pains me so much to do this as a Seahawks fan. But the Bills and Stone Forsythe, the statistically worst offensive lineman in the National Football League. I can't stand watching him every week. Forget about DK Metcalf not being in the game. He's the reason we're going to lose this.
Fair. I mean, that is a good luck charm for your Seattle Seahawks. I mean, I picked them too, so it's 6-0 against the panel. But that will be a fun one for sure, and we'll have more storylines over the course of next week. Before we go, 2 quick things. This is the World Series. It begins on Friday. We have the 2 biggest teams in the MLB, the Yankees and the Dodgers. People wanted the Subway Series, but we got the 2 biggest markets instead. Really quickly, we got the Yankees, we got the Dodgers. Who wins? Who wins in how many games? Let it fly.
I guess I'll go first. So as much as I want the Dodgers to win, because I'm an Orioles fan, I'm going to go Yankees. They've had all their 9 games have been close. I think they've all been within 3 runs in this playoff series. They know how to win close games somehow, some way. I have them going in 6, or winning in 6.
The Yankees?
Yankees winning in 6.
Gotcha.
I got the same exact thing. My grandpa's a Yankees fan. I want to be happy. Yanks in 6.
Yankees in 7. The script writers want this 7 games. It's going to be 7 games.
Yeah, probably.
We're about to watch 7 9-inning movies in this series with the amount of talent on both sides. But Mr. October, Giancarlo Stanton, gets the job done.
I have the Dodgers in 6. They're hot, and they had a harder road to the World Series. So,
Exactly.
and they made it,
Can I counterpoint?
but they're here.
Sure.
Can I counterpoint?
Yes.
Yes, they've had a harder road to the World Series. The Yankees are the best team in baseball at getting on base and working deep in counts. They average 4 pitches in at bat. The Dodgers bullpen has been used up a lot in this postseason. They've had to throw bullpen games. If the Yankees get to this bullpen early, the Dodgers have no shot in the latter games.
I don't know, but Dodgers and Yankees are both clutch at random times. They'll just hit a home run out of nowhere. It'll be Stanton or Ohtani. One of them will hit something, and it's going to go crazy.
The problem is, one of them will have to hit it off Garrett Cole. The other will have to hit it off somebody we've never heard of.
Yama, yeah.
Not yet.
I can't see.
He's got 1 game. this year.
The other
Yeah,
thing
Garrett
about
Cole
this is the 3-man of Soto, Stanton, and Judge is just, God, that's
You
horrifying.
could say the same thing with Ohtani, Betts, and Freddie Freeman.
Yeah.
It's the
Tommy
most-
Edman. It is
No.
his match.
This is
No, because Giancarlo Stanton has been the best player in October.
This is
Not
the
even
most
kind of close.
talented World Series
Yeah.
we've had since 1999, when
Yeah.
the Yankees had Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Roger Clemens, and the Braves had Greg Maddux, Chipper Jones. This is
cinema.
This
We're
is
gonna watch
the
7
greatest thing for baseball. I wanted a Subway World Series. I'm sorry, Griffin. I know you did too.
It's
But
okay.
this is the greatest thing
I
for baseball.
feel like if we hype this up so much, it's going to turn out to be like every game is 0-0, 0-1, or not 0-0, but 0-1,
That would be,
1-2.
I would love that.
That would be awesome.
Like, I feel like they're all just going to be like low scoring at
It could
this
be.
point.
It
I'm
could
like,
be a 5-game series, which would suck.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's going to be a letdown. Hopefully it's not. I'm hoping for a 7-game series.
I hope so too. I really do. I think that it's going to be fun. One more final point. I know at the NBA, I know this wasn't in the script. The NBA starts this week. Do any of you guys have a champion, a future champion, if you guys know ball that well? I mean, I'm not going to say that, but I know you weren't prepared. NBA champion, who you guys got?
Oklahoma City Thunder. They are talented, man. They're going to be They're going to be the most fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, give it one sentence.
Wizards, because they're probably going to get Cooper Flag, and we're going to be looking so much better in about 20 years.
I mean this year, not next year.
No, this would be like 15 years.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know, Celtics looking good. Celtics are looking pretty good. I guess I'll go Celtics right now. I'm going to look a little bit more into it.
I like the Timberwolves because they've got a lot of talent. They made the trade for, I believe it was Julius Randle they got from the Knicks. They've got Anthony Edwards, a whole boatload of talent, and I feel like it's their time. They've come close before, and they'll win it.
Now I just see delusion on people's boards.
Sixers. I know I'm being delusional. I have to root for my team, though. I mean, Embiid said he's never playing back-to-back games again, but go Sixers. I don't.
Kind of the same thing. More of a request. It just says Philly Sports. Please do something. So if anybody wants to win, I would like that a lot.
Do the Flyers
We're in
have
a little
a shot?
drought.
Oh, no. Oh, never.
We're in a drought. We'll come back. We'll be back.
They'll be back for sure. I mean, I do have Boston going back-to-back. We'll see what happens, but before we go, that's going to do it for this episode of The Extra Point. Thank you guys for tuning in to my panelists. Always thank you guys. Everybody in Tigervision, everyone in the booth, Zach, Connor, whoever's in there. I know Luke, Jackson, I see you guys in there. Appreciate everything you guys do. Always like, comment, and subscribe. Tigervision on YouTube. But for that, I'm Griffin Barfield. I'll see you guys next week. See ya.